Hello, everyone, and welcome. In this recording, I'm going to be speaking about the most important astrological moments of the year 2024. But before we get to the specific details, to the relevant dates, I would just like to say a couple of words much more generally, even without having to look at the chart, about 2024, because certain energies, certain, let's say, big planets, already set the theme. And that theme is bound to play out one way or another, depending on our co creation, of course, in this year. And one of these energies is without a shadow of a doubt Pluto. And you have heard me and every single astrologer on the planet talking about this. Now, Pluto on the 21st of January 2024 is going to re-enter, better said, 0 degrees of Aquarius. Now, in itself, this isn't exactly totally brand new because Pluto was here around the very end of March, let's say 25th of March, 2023. So, what major themes, what, let's say, karmic highlight started to build up in your life back then? Of course, this might not have really played out fully at that time, but something marked a moment or a theme or highlighted something for you. And of course, collectively speaking as well, but that is a totally different story because what was highlighted collectively is very, very obvious. But personally, what has happened around in your life around this 25th of March 2023, so the very end of March 2023, because that theme may continue or something relevant may be built on that all throughout 2024 and of course a long time after, because Pluto is going to stay in Aquarius for the next 20 years or so. But also in 2023, around in the autumn, Pluto is briefly, for a couple of months or even less, gonna move back into the sign of Capricorn, reactivating that 29th degree. Now, let me just give you a proper date for this because this is quite important. So this is going to take place around the 3rd of September 2024 when Pluto moves back into that 29 degrees of Capricorn. So that's when Pluto is truly going to finish its work in Capricorn. So that will definitely be the cherry on top, but a very, very, very intense energy playing out both individually in our lives in one area of life where that 29 degree of Capricorn falls into, but also collectively speaking. So we can expect quite a lot of intensity. We can expect a lot of issues around power, whatever that means for us individually, needless to say, collectively as well. But keep in mind that this is the finale. This is where it's just the cherry on top, because the essence of this, the core of this, has been, let's say, lived out already. Right now, as we speak, as you listen to this horoscope, because I'm recording this on the very end of December 2023, that's when we're truly living this energetic Pluto finishing its job in Capricorn. But enough about Capricorn, because we're all we need to do is just look on the internet what's happening in the world and we see the expression of that. But let's talk about Aquarius a little bit, because whenever Pluto enters the sign, a sign, any sign, at that 0 degrees, a critical degree, it highlights the symbolism, the usefulness, the reason why the divine created and alchemized that sign. The power, the symbolism, the specifics, the energy of that sign is going to be that much more obvious in our individual lives and of course on the world stage, collectively speaking. So we will definitely get into Aquarian vibes. Now, what is associated to Aquarian vibes? Well, Aquarius is a very, very futuristic energy. So all of us, as I said, either individually or collectively, or chances are both, are going to be preoccupied by the future, our future, future project, anything that has to do with the future. This is more of an individual expression. Aquarius is also our hopes and dreams. So big, big issues raised around that. How to accomplish that, when to accomplish that, who to accomplish that with, because this leads us to another expression of Aquarius: people, interhuman connections, the collective as a whole. But just remember the glyph of Aquarius, the two waves, one above each other. That represents the dual nature of Aquarius, but that dual nature is not connected. It just floats together without a connection. That represents, how should I say, the coexistence of the individual and collective alike. In themselves, these are the two opposite expressions of each other, right? The individual, me. The collective is all about everyone. This is where the me doesn't matter, but yet they can coexist in perfect harmony. So this nuance is going to be very, very highlighted. I matter, but everyone else matters the same way. This is the most harmonious expression of Aquarius, so let us hope that it plays out like that. So us needing to find our signature connections, because this isn't a physical energy. This is like a mental, but when I say mental, it is the higher mind / psychological energy. Aquarius, the bolter bearer, the emotion that motivates higher thought. You know what I mean? So going back, so the individual and also the collective, have to really, really find their unity. So that means interhuman connections, finding our resonance in the collective. But this can play out in so very many different ways. For some, this is purely ideological and philosophical, to find the ideal they believe in and motivates them. This can very well be, why not, political. For other people, this needs like a true connection, exchange of whatever, information, emotions, thoughts, dreams about the future, very, very associated to Aquarius. But when I say dream, as an aspiration, as something that wants to be created from within us, not necessarily the unconscious type of dream, because that is the next sign, Pisces. So going back to Aquarius, the common dream, the shared dream, for other people still, it means like a proper connection where online they find their tribe, their group. For others still, this is like where they actually get this, becomes a more Cancerian expression, in the sense that they actually move to the people they want to belong to. So this finding your place, your connection, can take so very many shapes and forms. Like, let me give you an example. This doesn't mean something ideal for everyone. There are going to be individuals who will do the opposite. Remember, Aquarius, the dichotomy can coexist and it's not a problem. So for some people, it will be returning to solitude, disconnecting from everything. But that ultimately means connecting to something higher than society, higher than the human element, higher than people. So this can play out in very many ways. This is why what I mentioned earlier are just example purposes, but all of us need to find our connection to that something that animates us, motivates us, and pours, Aquarius, the water bearer, emotion into our beings. And when I say emotion, it hopeful emotion, hope, what we want to create, the fervor, the elation, the anticipation. Okay, the other thing that is very specific to Aquarius is freedom. Aquarius is like the French Revolution, the equality, fraternity, liberty, and all of the other elements of the French Revolution are so very symbolic to Aquarius. So you can imagine that this will, without a doubt, gonna be a massive freedom cry. How that will play out? Well, this is what I'm gonna say now. One of the other highlights, the ruler of Aquarius is Uranus. And Uranus is gonna conjunct Jupiter in April in the sign of Taurus. Which means, let's just say it like this, Jupiter will expand Uranus. So you can imagine the two Uranian or Aquarian energies being active together. Pluto highlighting Aquarius, then Uranus being activated 10 times stronger than it usually is. Issues around freedom, fight for freedom, some kind of freedom themed event, let's call it like that, is definitely going to be playing out on the world stage. And needless to say, in our individual lives as well, just that this is where the individual life is really not as spectacular as it's going to be on the world stage. So you know what I mean. But whatever happens, maybe not necessarily in April, but around that springtime, early summer is gonna be part of history. Um, and the other theme that Pluto will strongly activate is technology. Everything about technology. Why everything? Because that 0 degree of Aquarius is also important because back in December 2020, Saturn and Jupiter met there and they opened a new paradigm. They opened the future, but in philosophy, first of all. And Pluto activates that 0 degree. So that is when our perception, our deepest thought, our idea, even criticism, Pluto, the truth, the deepest truth about technology is gonna sink into us. Why? Because until this point, most people, Aquarius, most people were ignorant and a bit blind to the true effects and meaning of technology. Now Pluto and Aquarius is gonna make it very obvious for everyone what technology and living with technology means, both the good and the bad. But let's say that usually, first of all, it's the good, the practical, the useful, the power of technology. So chances are in 2024, that is going to be a theme. What good technology can do to us personally. And not just from a strictly a comfortorian perspective, as in what does it do in our lives, how does it make our lives better, but from every perspective, because with technology humankind is a parent species to something that is just growing. You know what I mean? We created something that can very well be autonomous very soon. And this leads us to the other expression of Pluto and Aquarius. What is AI and where is it going? Where is it growing, evolving into Aquarius the future. And chances are it is starting to have some kind of consciousness, some kind of sense of self. So this is where it's really Uranus, in the sense that no one knows. We'll see. Surprise, surprise. Let's hope it's not the bad kind of surprise, surprise. And the other expression, and this is the not so favorable type of expression, mental health problems, also related to technology and existing in a very artificial world. So we are going to be seeing the mental health issues and understand them from a totally different light, because they're going to be extraordinarily numerous. What is the opposite sign of Aquarius? Leo. So especially in teenagers and youth. And this will have some very ugly scenes, and I'm not gonna sugarcoat this. You may call me the negative type of astrologer, like other people think, Brian Coulter is, for example. But we cannot sugarcoat this. There are gonna be, and it pains me to even say this, but there are gonna be losses of lives due to depression, but the kind where it's really the effect of living in an artificial world. And the youth is good. Goes hand in hand with Pluto in Aquarius. If we want to find solution to this, that is also Pluto, rectify it, transform it, transmute it, heal it. Pluto ruling Scorpio regeneration. First, we need to be aware of it. And Pluto is that, Uranus is even more that, the ruler of Aquarius. So everyone who works in any kind of care profession or gives any kind of care or works with people, expect to use your humanitarian muscle and experience to the maximum, because this is when your job really begins. Because who else is gonna try and help the problem, first of all? Who's gonna be the first aid for the collective depression that Pluto in the sign of Aquarius will bring on, like a wave? Well, it is gonna be healers of any kind. It doesn't matter what kind. And even types of healers that we never knew they existed. They're gonna make their entry at this Pluto in Aquarius moment. So this doesn't even relate to a date in 2024. This is 2024 and after. So yes, there is going to be a big, big theme about technology and what it does and the future and anything quantum and different understanding of the world. And, from a more down-to-earth perspective, massive political changes and the people being empowered. Now, this is okay. This is like Pluto is anyway a big planet, not in physical reality. It's astrological influence. So this is where it's like the collective theme. It's gonna just be there and play out. This is the signature of our times. Okay. But then there are going to be other planets which bring a much more personal theme, where the personal can be linked with the collective, but not in a observably direct way, but more in a generational karmic way. I'm sorry. So we're speaking about Saturn on one hand in the sign of Pisces. Massive karmic closures. Pisces is the sign of finality. Saturn is the lord of karma. Big, big, big closures, completions. In a sense, even moments of justice, moments of karmic justice, moments of karmic equilibrium, because Saturn only is in Pisces about 2.5 years every 33 years or so. So you can imagine that it is when the karmic clock says finality, the endings, the complete, the world card in tarot. Basically, that is the energy here. Big, big, big closures and energies becoming very, very ripe and just ready. So, but Saturn is not alone in the sign of Pisces. There's also Neptune, and Neptune himself marks the finality because it's gonna hang out quite a long time, very close and at 29 degrees of Pisces. The very, 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 very last degree of the zodiac, the 360 degree, the last degree. So that's the end. That is the omega moment. Even in spirit, Pisces, even in ether, that is when energies, whatever, cycle, patterns, etc., etc., reach their final state. Because after there's 0 degree of Aries, that's the very first breath. You know what I mean? So the omega followed by the alpha moment, but that alpha moment is going to be that year 2025 from this deeper karmic perspective. But 2024 is going to start the closures, the completions, and anything that has to be made solid, Saturn in Pisces. So we need to put this in context in our own personal lives. Where does the Pisces fall into our chart? But also collectively speaking. So Saturn and Neptune and Pisces marking finalities. This will definitely impact the medical world. Pisces, you know what I mean? And Black Moon Lilith is in the sign of Virgo, another medical sign. Pisces Virgo axis. So there's going to be oppositions and all that. There is going to come a moment when there's going to be a massive stellium in Pisces towards the end of the year 2024, even eclipse in Pisces. So Pisces and this finality, this culmination, this highlight is definitely going to be part of it. So medically speaking, what is going to happen in the medical world? What kind of things are going to be exposed, Saturn? Be made aware by anyone. You know what I mean? Also, Saturn discoveries, the final results of research and any kind of work. So there is going to be a lot of good in it as well. But of course, this can also represent certain illnesses coming up from the, how should I say this, the very, very, very long-term past. For example, like, I don't know what kind of pox, which was already extinguished in the year 17, you know what I mean? For example, so certain illnesses are going to make a comeback, and Neptune at 29 degree of Pisces, mutations. There are going to be mutations. And Neptune at 29 degree of Pisces, a lot of flooding. Water is going to be a massive, massive, massive theme. And around that degree, there is a fixed star, which is associated to deep sorrow. So you can imagine that water is going to claim victims and there is going to be quite some calamity. But at the same time, the opposite Pisces. When something comes Piscean, then both expressions are there. Mercy, compassion, Christ consciousness, the power of the spirit and the soul being at maximum to bring forth what it needs to, because 29 degree, shadow degree. And this, in both the good sense, the power of faith, the power of belief, the power of love, the power of the divine, basically, the prayer and all that, but also the negative, the negative side, a religious fanaticism, um, and the power of the unholy spirit, because that's also Pisces. So yeah, there, and this is where it's not doom and gloom, and this is not a horoscope, but this is where both expressions are going to be out there. Of course, it is up to us which one we focus on, which one we embrace, and that's going to make all the difference. But we need to be aware of both. So this is why I'm not just spreading doom and gloom, but certain things needs to be said. And last but not least, and after this, I'm gonna share my screen and go with you to the most relevant dates, the meeting of Jupiter and Uranus in the sign of Taurus. Now, this happens at around 21 degrees. Why is that important? On one hand, we need to go back to the year 2000, where the last great conjunction, meeting of Jupiter and Saturn, took place in Earth sign, specifically there at Taurus. Now, why was this important? Because this marked whatever happened, the karmic theme of whatever happened to us collectively and individually from 2000 to 2020. But the cycle, doesn't close when the astrologer says it's over. Anything stays with us still for a number of years. So that Taurus construction, one way or another, is still present in our lives. Like, let me just give an example. Aggressive capitalism, one of the dark sides of that energy. Unfair competition, that's still with us. You know what I mean? So whatever happened in our lives, what started in our lives in 2000, because that's gonna be reactivated by this energy. But this energy is also different because it's Uranus and Jupiter. This will be a massive quantum leap. But we can expect calamity, earthquake, volcanoes, and also calamity metaphorically, politically, financially. Something is going to happen in the financial industry without a shadow of a doubt. And let me give you an example. In 2021 and 2022, we had Uranus in Taurus, the financial sector, squaring Saturn in Aquarius. That energy was bound to shake up the financial industry, and it did. Crypto fluctuated, and even our behaviors as consumers changed drastically, radically, but it was the slow grind. You know what I mean? It was slow and painful. This energy, on the other hand, is like an explosion. One day it's one, the other day everything's different. From 1 second to like a quantum leap. So something new comes to us very, very quickly, and their effects is expanded by Jupiter. So this is where we have to see, but it will definitely impact the financial industry, the physical earth, and everything that has to do with our relationship with nature, Taurus, our relationship with values, and even self-worth. Like, let me give you an example. And understand this, please, astrologically, not that it's my opinion. I don't even have an opinion in this, or it's not judgmental or not any. This is just an example which you can see on the internet. There are these neo pronouns and that new gender type of thing, which is very, very Uranian, so to speak. And in the sign of Taurus, it has this tendency to either be a permanent part of our lives, as in to become accustomed that yes, everyone has to acknowledge that that exists, or the opposite, that it's eliminated once and for all, because Uranus is ultimately the planet of science, in the sense that something that is hypothesized has to be proven empirically. That's Uranus. So what happens with this topic, this neo-pronouns and that gender stuff? We will see this play out on the world stage in a very decisive way. Sorry, I had a major Mercury retrograde moment there, because when I'm recording it, this Mercury is still retrograde. So this is an example, but you can imagine that financially speaking and in any other Taurus related way, it's going to be just as radical. So, and another thing which I must mention is that both Uranus and Mars in 2024 are going to activate fixed star Algol. Yes, the head of Medusa. So that is one of the most notorious fixed stars in astrology for all the wrong reasons, because it is considered heavily malefic. But what happens with that? A head is gonna fall symbolically. Head of what? Of bank, World Bank, head of a state. What is gonna transform radically and very, very quickly? And there's also a Uranus-Mars conjunction, which will further trigger Uranus. So in 2024, we can expect a lot of Uranian activities. Now, with this being said, let's go over the most relevant dates. And please, let's go very quickly, because I philosophized way too much, and you got the picture. You get the general idea of this 2024. So let us make these dates very, very brief. So 1st of January is one of the key dates. Why I find this important is because Jupiter on the 31st of December 2023 goes direct. So on 1st of January, it's still basically standing still in the sky. And Mercury goes direct. So this Jupiter and Mercury both going direct will feel rather funny. You know what I mean? This will make us feel that January and February is going to be super busy, super important. A lot of events are going to unfold in very speedy succession, individually and collectively alike. And on this 1st of January, we're going to be feeling that, because both these two very important planets that have to do with communication and understanding, Mercury, lower understanding, our lower mind's perceptions of everything, and Jupiter, our highest thought and philosophies, our understanding. Something is gonna come to our awareness that, yep, it is beginning. And then I would like to go to the 21st of January, when, of course, as you expected, Pluto enters into the sign of Aquarius. So this is really, really, really important for all the reasons I said earlier. Now, after the 21st of January, 27th is important because Uranus goes direct. So at that moment, everything important in the sky is direct. So we're definitely going to be feeling that it's time to make progress. It's time to walk the path. It's time. Events are unfolding. So we're really, really going to be feeling this dynamic. And also Uranus direct. When Uranus is direct, the storm is within us. When Uranus is retro, sorry, the storm is within us. plans, epiphanies, brainstorming, our truth, our authenticity. When Uranus is direct, that's when it explodes. That's when it externalizes. So that will mark a lot of important decisions, actions, leaps of faith, risk taking, moments of bravery and courage for a lot of people. So that's when the revolutionary energy is already boiling. Oh, and this, what I'm about to show you, is not really specific to a certain date, but a couple of weeks and even months, when Saturn, when it's not moving all that very quickly yet, and Jupiter the same, they're holding a sextile. And this is a saving grace, truly it is. Jupiter in Taurus, that is where, regardless of what happens, things still have to obey the laws of nature, Taurus, or the laws of common sense, anything Taurian and anything Piscean. So this is a really, really good energy because it helps us ground ourselves in something useful and move forward. It is good for mental health, Saturn in the sign of Pisces, but it is also good for believing in what we need to believe in, Jupiter in Taurus, justice, values, etc., etc. This sextile gets us there. It is like a saving grace. The 30th of January in my notes. And on the 30th of January, we can see Mars in the sign of Capricorn holding a trine and conjunct Mercury, of course, we must not forget. Trine Uranus in Taurus. Now, from Mercury's sense, this is so beautiful because Mercury is Uranus's higher octave and freshly out of its retrograde. So covering new ground, if I'm not covering new ground. And trine with Uranus, solutions, practical. So yes, it can. The can-do attitude. There are solutions to everything. With communication, with intelligence, with thought, with administration, with Capricornian matters. But Mars makes it that much more intense in a good way. Why? Because this truly solves problems. This truly gets us there, does whatever we need to be done. It truly gets us there in a very practical way. And Mars is exalted in the sign of Capricorn. It is serious, it is focused, it is singular, it is responsible, it is everything that it needs to be. So this is a beautiful Mars. And with Mercury, the mind is helping. There is a really, really good, this is a wonderful energy to get things done. Older things, even which may be pending, because Mercury is fresh out of its shadow. You know what I mean? Shadow path. So it's even good for the Mercury retrograde themes, but it's also good for the present and ultimately Pluto in Aquarius, the future. It's a really good solution energy, and Uranus surprises can come. Technology, the human element, knowledge, courage, higher understanding, all of that is our greatest ally. So this end of January and beginning of February is super important to get things done. Now we go to the 20th of February. And this I find very beautiful because Chiron is conjunct the North Node. Now, the North Node in the sign of Aries, it makes the energy of 2024 very individualistic. But this isn't all that new because this already started from summer 2023. You know what I mean? So we know in 2024 from the very beginning that this is very individualistic. But within this time frame, this 20th of February is profoundly healing when we take relevant action towards our healing. Very, very important. Now, I cannot be silent about this because this energy also means that life-changing wounds for other people. And even though this sounds negative, it's really not, because how many great things in our lives were accomplished due to a wound that we received. Like, let me give you an example. Let's go back to school. This is where you really, really know how to draw, and you make a drawing, a beautiful drawing, and you only get the mark, which is B plus, or not top mark, but the next one down. So still really, really good, but not the top mark. Okay. But it causes a wound. It causes a massive disappointment. No, 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 you cannot accept this. Crying and all of that. But that starts an ambition within you. So that is the type of energy that I'm speaking about. The good type of wound. Or, someone's beaten up on the playground and they decide to go to karate. You know what I mean? So the good type of wound, which also happens in life, because Aries is that sign which has to do with everything that is usually part of life. You know what I mean? Certain types of wounds are unavoidable in while being alive. So, I really don't want to make it sound all that dramatic because it isn't. We must take the wound as it is and see the potential in it. So that's the not so favorable kind of expression, but that's also favorable in itself. But you can imagine this will have a collective expression. So I'm praying that it's the positive one, where we heal some people. You know what I mean? But Chiron is highlighted very, very intensely here. So yeah. Now let us move on to the 26th of February, when there is a not so easy energy in the sky. Venus is conjunct Mars in the sign of Aquarius. Mars doesn't like being in the sign of Aquarius because it is debilitated. But Mars in Aquarius means the power of the collective, especially the power of the internet, the power of speech, the power of people, basically. Conjunct Venus, so what people need, desire, want, feel, and money. Square Jupiter in Taurus. Jupiter is planet of justice, the law. Taurus is values, finances. So you can imagine that this will potentially represent a big battle, legal battle, or protest, or boycotting, or something in the name of justice, collective action in the name of justice. But the collective action will be triggered, because you know what I mean. Something will trigger it. What will it be? Censorship over the internet, for example. Jupiter squaring, so basically a square of Taurus and Aquarius. So something is limitative here, or something is stirring up the fight for freedom, Mars and Aquarius, the power of people, unity, etc. So something triggers this. But on the positive side, it gets us there, This energy is quick. This energy leaps us somewhere. Whatever challenge the square holds, the solution to it is golden, It is valuable, Venus. And that is ultimately the expression of the Venus and Jupiter square. Individually speaking, this is where we need to balance out the self and others. You know, personal needs and the needs of the collective. So this is like a sacrifice aspect, where if you get it right, if you get the measure right, it can turn into something truly positive. You know, having your justice, having your blessing, basically. But if you go into excess, because Jupiter amplifies, then it's not something very good, because it leads to imbalance, big imbalance. Because imagine, power of the people can mean imbalance, because that means anarchy. The power of the people doesn't always mean good. You know what I mean? Excessively overdoing it, well, it means violence and anarchy and raiding, or how you call it, looting, or you know what I mean. So we'll see how this plays out. 28th of February, that follows in my notes. Yes, we have Saturn conjunct Mercury, conjunct a triple conjunction, a massive reality check, if you ask me. Especially that they sextile Jupiter. And this is, okay, Mars still square as Jupiter, you know what I mean. So the issue is raised. But these three planets together in the sign of Pisces, compassion, etc., compassion, love, humanitarianism, all of us are just one. Saturn, the reality check factor, Mercury understands it, Sun illuminates it and combusts it, the need for compassion. So this is absolutely beautiful. This is also the power of the spirit, the power of empathy, the power of psychology, Mars in the sign of Pisces with Saturn, the understanding of emotion. Because psychology is one of those branches of science which isn't as empirical or rooted in empirism as like physics, for example. So Mercury, even though Mercury, as I said, is exiled in the sign of Pisces, it is not able to bring out its higher qualities, but it holds a sextile with Jupiter, and it's a Mercury loves being conjunct the sun. So whenever Mercury meets the sun in the sky, it's like a clarity aspect. We see it, it's there, it's obvious. And in Pisces, we don't even have to understand it classically, empirically. It's enough if we feel it, and if our sense of morality, Saturn in Pisces, is deeply satisfied. But this can be good for arts, for healing, for anything constructive in your life. And this is also very, very karmic. So this is where you see karma play out and you know what to expect. Because Pluto in Aquarius and this Piscean illumination of Saturn and Mercury, this is where your inner sight reveals things to you. Opposed to what we're living right now, you know, at the end of 2023, when everything is confused, everything is in fog. Now, at that moment, what is important is seen. The light at the end of the tunnel, let's say. And then we have to move to the 9th of March. So, and by the 9th of March, look at the party of planets in the sign of Pisces. Look how it's activated. Moon, Saturn, Sun, Neptune, conjunct Mercury. Neptune conjunct Mercury is going to be very, very important, because that is an aspect of profound self-understanding, understanding your soul, understanding your unconscious. For example, a moment of deep psychological healing, because for many people it may mean understanding the past, releasing it, accepting it, embracing it, releasing the trauma. So yeah. And so Pisces is going to be very, very active. Venus will prepare to move into it as well. And Venus is exalted in the sign of Pisces. She loves being there. So I do believe that is why I showed you this 9 of March for this Pisces gathering with the Mercury and Neptune conjunction. Also beautiful aspect for artists, writers, poetry, music, where 2024 is a year of massive music. Massive, massive, massive. All on one hand, because the Pisces, and the other hand is because Capricorn hosts dwarf planet Quaoar, which at the very, very beginning of the year trines Jupiter. So music is going to be a saving grace for this year. Now, moving on to the 25th of March. There we are, 25th of March. This is important because this begins eclipse season. So we are speaking about a penumbral lunar eclipse taking place in the sign of Libra at approximately 5 degrees of Libra, which means the sun is in the sign of Aries. It's already begun the astrological new year. So after the spring, at least where I live, equinox, and the eclipse is relatively close to the North Node. So it highlights again Libra, relationship, contracts, partnerships, diplomacy. We must not forget that the events of 7th October the 7th were also initiated by eclipses in Libra. So Libra Aries axis eclipse. So you can imagine something will definitely unfold in the world diplomatic relation. Mercury is present, very close to the North Node, and Chiron. So healing with words, negotiations. The diplomatic setup is going to change. The world stage diplomatic relations is not going to be the same again. And look, by this time, Mars is entered Pisces, a part of the sky where it's not as dynamic, it's not as fiery, not forceful, but that in a war, in the sense of war, is wonderful because yes, it may mean psychological warfare and using the psyche as a weapon, but at least it's not all that physical, because Mars in Pisces is where it's one of those signs where it's not physical. So in that sense, it's really, really good. And also compassion, humanitarian help, etc., etc. That's all good. But then we also get to the other end of the eclipse. The 8th of April is when we have, and this is a massive eclipse. This is big, 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 big. Total solar eclipse in the sign of Aries. That means a really powerful Aries new moon. And this is where it's birthing a new reality for all of us. Why do I say birthing? Well, look at the other planets in Aries. Venus is there, moon naturally, new moon there, the North Node is there, Sun is there, Chiron there, Mercury there, dwarf planet Aries there, dwarf planet Salasha there, and I'm very sure there are other dwarf planets or asteroids which I don't usually use also there. So that's a very powerful Aries configuration, which first sign of the zodiac. Of course, this energy may also represent conflict. This and Sun is conjunct Chiron at this moment. Because this eclipse, if I'm not mistaken, let me just check my notes. It takes place at 19 degrees of Aries. So absolutely, the Sun is conjunct Chiron. This, remember what I said when the North Node was conjunct Chiron. That means that the kind of wounds that represent our initiation into something, the journey towards mastery, it with an eclipse, it can be absolutely that. And it is deeply fated. But it's an eclipse. You know what I mean? An eclipse means reset. A moment, especially that it's a total eclipse. Everything is dark. Total reset. A wound can be reset as well. This can represent a powerful moment of healing. But also new healing techniques are going to be born. New healers are going to step up. Of course, we cannot ignore that this may be a Martian energy as well, because Mars is the ruling planet of the eclipse and the sign, and right now the North Node. So let us look at Mars, which is conjunct Saturn. Now, Mars and Saturn are the two malefics according to the ancients. Saturn is the greater malefic, Mars is the lower malefic. Whenever they conjunct, whenever they meet in the sky, trouble, malefic, is brewing. So it can also be an aggression of some sort. It can also be where we see some aggression started by psychological or religious or spiritual manipulation. So that's the worst expression. But let's look at the most positive expression. A powerful moment of healing. Venus is also there. Okay, Venus usually doesn't like being all that much in the sign of Aries because she's the slutty Venus. She's the way too sensual Venus, which doesn't care about certain standards. Libra, where she loves being, her home sign. She doesn't care about standard. But in this context, it's a non-judgmental Venus. Not judgmental in a very radical way, like anything goes. So get my analogy. This is where she is really a team player with all the other energies and planets. So our emotions, our sense of values, everything that we love, it's really, really, really hyped up at that moment. It's on fire, basically. Then we have just the eclipse. But we must not, we can't ignore that Chiron is also part of the, an integral part of the eclipse. Chiron is also eclipsed. So the wound is eclipsed. Now, what does that mean? What it means, we are understanding it. Why? Because we have Mercury retrograde in the sign of Aries at the same time. Mercury retrograding towards the eclipse point. When it will reach the eclipse point, that is a moment of understanding, of clarity, of our sense of direction. And this eclipse is a big game changer. But the positive expression of Saturn and Mars together in Pisces is exactly that healing. Mars taking an effort to fulfill whatever needs to be fulfilled. Saturn, the criteria, the conditions, the, you know, the challenges, the obstacles, the limitations that have to be overcome by Mars for the healing Pisces to take place. This can be true medically speaking as well. Saturn, the physical body, the physicality. Pisces, our water, inner water, blood chemistry, elements within our blood. Mars, the action, healing, you know what I mean? But also spiritually. This is a powerful healing principle. What is needed for redemption? Just even a biblical example, let's say, because Saturn in the sign of Pisces is karmic redemption. How do we balance out our karma? How we redeem our mistakes? How we repay our karmic debts? How do we close the door of karma? Mars is the action, it shows us the way. So this conjunction of Saturn and Mars in Pisces can have a beautiful expression to it as well. Now, it does have a bit of evil to it, you know, because according to the ancients, Pisces was one of the more shadowy signs, you know what I mean? And the two malefics meeting, plotting something, doing something there in it, well, of course, it means that evil is going to show itself. But in modern times, after thousands of years of collective alchemy, this also has the positive expression where we use it towards healing. For example, substances. We use substances for healing. New medicine, new alternative medicine. Why? Because the eclipse births something new. A crisis births an ingenious new solution which helps a lot of generations that come after. Pisces, as I said, is the long term. And Aries is the new beginning, the alpha and the omega moment. So that is an energy of profound transformation. And also Saturn and Mars together are two militaristic energies. Both of these energies are very militaristic. Fortunately, Pisces is the non-confrontational sign. Pisces is where no, I'm not raising the weapon. I'm not picking up arms. So this is a good energy for peace. Because Aries, with an eclipse, Aries the sign of the warrior, right? Aggression, assertion. And an eclipse may mean halt all of that. Stop with the war. Stop with the aggression. So I'm really hoping that's how it plays out. And Mars and Saturn together are very, you know, active principles, but Pisces drowns them. So they can only choose peace, you know, they can only work towards a Piscean expression. The lowest expression of this, of course, is deception, you know, very powerful deception. Neptune is in a deceptive mode there as well at 28 degrees of Pisces. But I know that there is enough purity and power within all of us collectively to make the best expression of this energy. And ultimately, Mars and Saturn together means we have to solve something. Solve something that has been plaguing us for a very long time, Pisces. And the eclipse solves this with something fresh and new and revolutionary. And Mercury retrograde also means healing the past. We heal something. Or something begins in our reality, which, how should I say, forces a collective healing journey upon us. So yeah, then we go to the 10th of April, when we have Saturn conjunct Mars perfecting, but I already spoke about this, so I'm not gonna mention this further. And now we get to the highlight of the year. And this is like a period, I would say. So from the 18th to the 21st, and even after. So from the 18th to around 25th, 26th of April, when Jupiter and Uranus meet in the sky, the quantum leap, the big upgrade, some technological innovations, everything that I mentioned at the beginning of this recording, the earthquake, symbolically or literally, the financial energy. But this is where something new, shocking, revolutionary technology-wise is going to come out, and it's going to shock everyone. And the new is also favored by the Aries planets. Mercury is still in Aries retrograde. By this moment, Mercury has already went past the eclipse point, remember? So Venus has went past the eclipse point, and Chiron was part of the eclipse. So we are seeing new play out without a shadow of a doubt. And the sun is already in the sign of Taurus. So this conjunction here is big. It is big, it is revolutionary, it is life-changing, even individually speaking. Where is this 21 degree of Taurus in your personal chart? If you have planets there, or planets opposite of this, you're gonna feel it profoundly. If you're gonna have planets at this 21 degree of any fixed sign, you're still gonna feel it. So, and the best, if you have planets around 21 degree of earth signs, you're also gonna feel it profound. But even if you don't have any planets, you're gonna feel it. Everyone's gonna feel it, especially because these are two big collective planets, social planets. So the world around us is gonna reflect this so intensely that we have no chance but to acknowledge this. And it's gonna be surprise moment. So yeah. And also going to the 28th of April, Mars conjunct Neptune. We're definitely going to be feeling the activation. Again, this may have the most positive example of potent healing energy, basically changing your inner wiring. Mars conjunct Neptune, you know, changing what you believe in, or strengthening it, or fortifying it, or purifying it. Because Mars is a fiery energy. Pisces is a watery energy, so it causes like hot water, boiling water. It cleanses, it purifies, it detoxes. But at the same time, Neptune can be the illusion, Neptune can be the, understand this symbolically, the black magic, why not? So Mars is using that one way or another. So profound psychological manipulation, but I would imagine that is the positive example that will be. And needless to say, for artists, healers, spiritualists, a big important period. And then we move on to May. So on the 2nd of May, we have Pluto starting its retrograde. Pluto standing still in the sky at this 2 degrees of Aquarius and preparing to go retrograde. Pluto retrograde in 2024 will last on the 11th of October. And we must not forget the 3rd of September when it exits Aquarius for the final time. Hanging around a little bit on that 29 degree of Capricorn, putting the cherry on top, on the deconstruction of the old order and revealing any corruption in top-down authority. So, and when Pluto, as I said, stands still and goes direct, it internalizes. And we feel the not so favorable Plutonian expressions of Aquarius. So something dark and shadowy is circulating on the internet. Something is bothering us, shadowy. May it be some kind of crime, may it be, I'm not sure, anything of this nature. Something bothers us, unsettles us, but we see the dark truth in something. Technology, internet, the human collective, someone misusing their liberties, for example, and Neptune at this moment goes anoretic. So it touches the 29 degrees of Pisces. So that's dangerous. That's not easy. That's not an easy energy for anything that has to do with illusions, delusions, mental illness, heavy and dangerous drug use, substances, alcohol. We will see the worst possible expressions of alcohol around that time, but anything has a positive expression as well. Profoundly dissolving, purging, cleansing. It removes even the most aggressively rooted karma, like bindweed. It takes the root out from the ground. So but it's a heavy end. It's not an easy energy, without a shadow of a doubt. So 15th of May is what follows. Or 19th, sorry, 19th. Yep. So here we have another very strong highlight. Mars is in his home sign. So very, 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 very powerful and potent. And conjunct the North Node. So this is really, really powerful because Mars is the ruler of Aries, and it's putting that it's combusting basically the North Node. So all of us are going to be that much more immersed and in a exaggerated way, let's say obsessed with our purposes, with our path forward, with our initiation, with our sovereignty, with being independent and having a healthy amount of power and control in our lives. On the same date, we have a Sun conjunct Jupiter at 28th degree of Taurus. That means that it's just past the conjunction with Algol. So a lot of things are going to be happening in the world stage out there. Just as Jupiter, just the head of a state is put on trial. For example, why? Algol, the head, the big leader. Jupiter and Sun combust, trial. For what? Venus conjunct Uranus at this time, Venus being home, financial crimes or crimes against people, for example, the misuse of technology, Uranus. Mercury is also in Taurus, so this is where the energy, the stellium is moving over to Taurus now. Moving on the 23rd of May, we have Venus conjunct Jupiter at 29 degree of the sign of Taurus and holding an outer sign conjunction with the Sun, a triple conjunction. Again, Jupiter and Venus, anoretic Taurus, money, economy, values, needs, and nature. And Uranus is also relatively, it's not a conjunction anymore, but it's close. So the instability, the chaos, and the quantum leap, the upgrade that Uranus represents is definitely there. Mercury is also there, slowly and surely making his way towards Uranus. So their conjunction further, a big surprise, a big leap of faith, an upgrade, an evolution, a collective step forward financially speaking, but in which way? Well, Gemini. And what does Jupiter anaretic Taurus mean? That it's almost in Gemini. And because this May, Jupiter will move into the sign of Gemini. Gemini, digitalization. Gemini is also a pretty technological sign. Communication, making it easier to do something, profound understanding something, and technology, the use of technology. Gemini is when a high-end technology becomes available for everyone. Let me give you an example. Maybe this isn't the, back in the 90s, everyone had, like, at least where I live, Pentium 1 or 2 maximum. Of course, much, much better computers than that existed, but only like NASA and I don't know what had them. In a few years, those computers which were only specific to NASA, because the industry evolved, became computers that everyone else was, like the dual core and stuff like that, everyone else could buy for their own personal use. So from the domain of Aquarius, it entered into domain of Gemini. This very same thing. Gemini is when everyone, or better said, from the domain of Sagittarius, it entered into Gemini. Sagittarius meaning that only the industry, the top end of an industry could use it for research and scientific purposes. That is the Sagittarius. But anyway, Aquarius, because it was that brand new, but ultimately it became in the domain of Gemini because everyone could use it for personal communication and personal calculations and stuff like that. So we will see that energy play out. Something that until now was just available for the rich and the elites or whatever becomes largely available for everyone. Is that holographic technology, or what is that? And chances are this will also impact artificial intelligence, because said dwarf planet Sedna will trine Pluto. So this is like air trine. Actually, what dwarf? The sun trines Pluto, an air trine. So this is when we see the benefits of technology. And that is one of the benefits when ultra rare technology becomes something common, available, a massive, massive, massive technological upgrade. How we will see. And do not forget, Jupiter and Venus both will move into Gemini. They will hold a trine with Pluto. Jupiter's trine with Pluto, well, it is wonderful. That is like the blessing. That is something truly to look forward to. But first of all this, then on the 26th of May, Jupiter enters into the sign of Gemini. Venus is already in trine with Pluto here, and that also means that Jupiter is also trining Pluto. So a triple trine, a Jupiter, Venus, Sun trining, beautiful, and Pluto retrograde. It solves problems from the past. And when I say problems, big problems that Aquarius, the human collective, has faced. This is a period of growth. This is a period of blessing. This is a period when we are already working with that brand new that the Aries eclipse has birthed until that moment. So this is a really, really beautiful energy. Very, very beautiful May. And I go to the, oh, and 30th of May is when Mars is conjunct Chiron, healing. And that healing is also supported by the Jupiter and Pluto trine. Jupiter in Gemini, healing the mind, healing communication, healing relationships, one-on-one relationships. becoming good neighbors, and understand this internationally. Becoming good neighbors. We're siblings. Everyone's a sibling with everyone. So these themes can really be healing ultimately. And Mercury is almost conjunct Uranus, so news, communication, etc., etc. The positive side of this. Then we go to the 2nd of June. 2nd of June, when we have a Venus and Sun conjunction in Gemini, but the Jupiter and Pluto trine. Very, very, very beautiful. 3rd of June, we have Mars. I will show this to you. Mars and Aries conjunction. Rebellious energy. Very, very rebellious energy. Especially that the moon a few hours before was also part of the conjunction. Something awakens our collective emotion. A fight for sovereignty, fight for independence. But chances are it can have a lot of good in it. Not necessarily the classic violent protest, let's march on the streets fight, because Venus is conjunct the Sun. So there is some kind of good news there, Gemini, circulating in the media, social media. And Jupiter is in the sign of Gemini. By this moment, Mercury, the ruler of Gemini, is home, conjunct Jupiter. This is good news to me. Some good news is circulating out there. Something to celebrate, perhaps. So, moving on to the 29th of June. Oh, sorry. So the 29th of June is kind of relevant because that is when Saturn starts its retrograde. It starts its retrograde at this 29 degree of Pisces. And its retrograde will last until the 7th of December 2024. So 2nd of July, sorry, 29th of June until 15th of November. I read Neptune retrograde. I'm so sorry. So to make it clear, I'm gonna say that again. Saturn retrograde starts on the 29th of June and lasts until the 15th of November, from 19 degrees of Pisces to 12 degree of Pisces. So we are definitely going to be feeling Saturn retrograde, because that's when everything that happened until is going to internalize, and we're going to deeply contemplate what's right, what's wrong. And that's when a lot of surprises and shocks have happened in May, and even in February, March, April, not to mention. So we are processing all those, we are contemplating. That is externalizing. And then we go to the 2nd of July. And yes, that is a relevant moment because of what I read earlier, mistakenly, the Neptune retrograde begins when this Neptune is hanging out at 29 degree 55 minutes of Pisces, the end of the end. So that's very shadowy, Neptune. Especially that it stands still in the sky on this 2nd of July. I expect something at sea. Something that involves ocean or water. Something happening. I'm not like, for example, last time when, okay, not Neptune, but Uranus was at 29 degrees of Pisces, was the Fukushima disaster. But at the same time, Neptune was at 29 degree of Aquarius. You know what I mean? Aquarius technology, Pisces, sea water, the Fukushima disaster. In this case, it's only going to be Neptune at the 29 degrees of Pisces, but it's going to be something related to water without a shadow of a doubt. So Neptune retrograde will end on the 7th of December, and it will retrograde back to 27 degree of Pisces. Then we move to the 15th of July. I'm so sorry, I'm being a bit clumsy here. So the 15th of July, when we have Mars conjunct Uranus and conjunct Algol. So this is, I expect on one hand, calamity, because this is explosion energy, volcanic explosion, or maybe a solar activity, solar flare, because they do speak in sextile with the sun. But this is some kind of calamity. And also a surprise moment. Because the head of something falls. Remember Algol. This is going to be a moment when we see something definitely play out of it. Financial, without a shadow of a doubt. Financial, where is the ruler of Taurus? Venus is in Leo. So that also suggests the flame, the fire, the eruption. And Leo is the sign of kings, leaders, rulers. Something happens there, but physically as well. But of course, you're going to hear much more about this in July's horoscope. So the 26th of July is important because it's Chiron retrograde, wounding. So whatever happens at 15th of July may leave a wounding. A Chiron retrograde is on the 26th of July until the 29th of December 2024. So that's, and then we have the 15th of August. The 15th of August is important because we have a conversation of tension beginning between Jupiter, and at this moment Jupiter is conjunct Mars. So very, very expanded, amplified in the sign of Gemini. Words, again, Jupiter, justice, legal petitions, words, encouragement, a unity of people in a legal way for justice, but also angry words and the typical Mars and Gemini, but squaring Saturn in the sign of Pisces. So again, what is true? We were, and this is where we must not forget that Pisces can dig up the past. So if someone lied, this is an aspect which uncovers lies. And if someone lied or deceived or presented false information in the past, they're going to be held accountable. So this can represent a political action, social action, but quite individually as well. A really, really good aspect for uncovering lies. But what happens? The worst expression is that it will provoke heavy conflict, aggression, uh, really, really heavy feelings. But the good expression of this energy is that it will lead us to release and heal, and Saturn in the sign of Pisces, life experience, very, very strong life experience, never to allow ourselves to be deceived again or lied to. So this is, but this energy isn't one time off. This square is going to be on and off all through the end of the year. So this, I'm not gonna specify, not to waste your time, the exact moments, but this is the first moment when it's almost exact. So the square is gonna be just like the Saturn and Uranus square was in 2021. just there and irritative. But something does stir up at the middle of August, I would expect. So now we are going to the 1st of September. The 1st of September is important because it is when the Uranus retrograde begins. Uranus goes retrograde at this 27, where are you? 27 degree of Taurus, all the way through 23 degree of Taurus. And Uranus retrograde ends on the 3rd of January 2025, or 30th of January 2025. So the Uranus will be retrograde for the rest of the year, starting from this 1st of September. Now, the 3rd of September is very important because Pluto moves into the back into the sign of Capricorn until the 11th of October 2024. But I already spoke about that. Now, 17th of September, when the other eclipse season begins, we have a partial lunar eclipse in the sign of Pisces at 25 degrees, so conjunct Neptune. You cannot see the eclipse on the screen because it needs to go a few hours forward for it to display, but you get the picture. This is a general setup. So quite a powerful energy, especially that at the moment of the eclipse, Mars is going to T-square the nodes of the moon. So what happens here in Pisces? Something ends for good. Something is reset. A moon eclipse, feelings, or in order for us to North Node and South Node move forward on our destiny line, we need to sacrifice something, Pisces? Is something being revealed? Are we eliminating something from our lives? Because this can very well be healing, forgiving. Because, Cancer, Mars and Cancer squaring the nodes of the moon, is about family, is about the past, our ancestors, where we belong to. So this will definitely impact us both psychologically, spiritually. This eclipse will have a very powerful supernatural side to it, but also, in the sense of family karma and emotionally, psychologically, spiritually, and in a very practical way, because Cancer means people of the same ethnic origins or people living at the same place, same country, same town. So the local community, this will have a strong eclipse. And then we have another eclipse on the 2nd of October, when we have an annular solar eclipse at 10 degree of Libra. Very, very close to Mercury and Black Moon Lilith. So a new beginning. This is where Libra, a new diplomatic relation, new law, new sense of justice. Again, freedom, liberty, equilibrium, everything that has to do with the Libra symbol is gonna start becoming part of our lives. And Mercury, profound understanding, communication, signing of a treaty, peace, offerings, perhaps. Mars is squaring it, of course. It's not a very tight square, but again, the will of the people. Everyone has to reach a certain kind of consensus. And this can represent in our personal lives like a new relationship, a new contract, new marriage, new something that is stemming from us having learned an important lesson in the past. So perhaps in the year 2023. So yeah, this energy is really, really strong and important. And let's go to the 9th of October. when Jupiter stands still in the sky, so prepares its retrograde from 21 degree of Gemini. Let me just show you Jupiter. Where are you, Jupiter? So 21 degree of Gemini, all the way to 11 degree of Gemini, but Jupiter retrograde ends on the 4th of February 2025. So both Uranus and Jupiter only end their retrograde in 2025. So that's one energy. Then the 20th of November is very important because Pluto after going direct, of course, is finally back in Aquarius. So it continues its job in the sign of Aquarius, and we're definitely going to be feeling that very strongly. And then another date is the 25th of December, when we have Jupiter at 13 degrees of Gemini, holding the square again with Saturn. So I spoke about this. We are really, really going to be feeling this. What was true? What was not true? What did we learn from our experiences of being deceived? This is where what is Jupiter in Gemini can represent the secular law. Saturn in the sign of Pisces, the karmic divine law. If the two are in conflict, well, which one do we choose? Simply said in a nutshell, the alchemy of this energy is this: secular law versus divine law. And we must not forget that Jupiter is in exile in the sign of Gemini. So it's exactly that. Not the profound divine justice, but the earthly, like justice. And as a closure, I would like to speak about the Mercury retrograde periods of 2024. The first Mercury retrograde is going to be on the 1st of April until the 25th of April. And this is going to be in the sign of Aries, from 27 degree of Aries retrograding back to 15 degree of Aries. The other one is in August, the 5th of August, when Mercury is going to be at 4 degree of Virgo, is going to retrograde back to 21 degree of Leo. And Mercury retrograde ends on the 28th of August. So 5th of August ending on 28th of August. And the last one is going to be on the 26th of November, when Mercury is going to start its retrograde at 27 degree of Sagittarius, and its retrograde on the 15th of December at 6 degree of Sagittarius. So with this being said, these are the most relevant dates of 2024 according to me. Of course, there are so much more to speak about, but this is all I could compact in a single video. Thank you everyone for listening. Thank you for all the love, all the support, all the generosity that I received from you in 2023, and I really hope to be with you and guide you in 2024 as well. So wishing everyone a blessed and very, very happy and empowering new year. So with this being said, until next time, bye for now.